Okay, everyone. So we've all been there, right?
Mhm.
You know, you sit down at your computer and you've got all this video footage
Yep.
from a shoot or something that you've been working on, and you just kind of like, oh,
Yeah.
you know, the thought of going through all of it and having to scrub through timelines
Yep.
in Premiere or Final Cut or whatever it is that you use, it can be a little bit daunting sometimes.
It can be a lot daunting sometimes.
So today we're talking about a tool that aims to kind of make that initial process a little bit less painful, a little bit less daunting, and hopefully a lot more efficient.
Yeah, definitely.
So we are going to be talking about MarkerFlow.
MarkerFlow.
And all we have for this one is the MarkerFlow documentation itself.
Yeah, just the website, yeah.
Yeah. So we are going to be diving into that and seeing, you know, what it's all about, who it's for, and how it might solve this problem that we've just been talking about.
Yeah, and does it actually deliver, is this really a simpler way to do that first pass, that initial review of your footage?
Yeah, I think a lot of us are hoping that it is. Yeah.
So yeah, let's just jump right in.
Let's do it.
So MarkerFlow, when you hear that name, you kind of already know what they're getting at.
Right.
They're talking about marking something up.
Right.
So, so what is MarkerFlow? What does it actually, how does that play out in terms of video?
Well, it is a video player application. So it is software that you use to watch videos.
Yeah.
But it's very lightweight. It's not a full-fledged, video editor.
Right.
It's very much focused on this one task.
Yeah.
And that task is going through your footage and marking the key moments
Okay.
as you're watching it and thinking about how you might want to use it later on.
So it's kind of like when you're reading, an article online or a PDF or something, and you use your highlighter tool.
Exactly. Yeah.
To highlight certain sentences.
Or, even a physical book, you're taking notes in the margins.
Exactly.
It's that same idea applied to your video footage.
And it uses color-coded markers too, right?
Yeah. So this is where it gets even more interesting.
You can categorize these different moments in different ways.
Okay.
So, as you're watching your raw footage, you might say, okay, well, this section here, this is definitely getting cut.
Right.
This is no good, so I'm going to mark that in red.
Okay.
Or maybe you see a moment that you're like, oh, this is gold. This is going right in the final edit. I'm going to mark that in green.
Okay.
So you have this kind of visual language that you can build up as you're going through your footage.
So you can basically look at a timeline and be like, okay, there's a lot of red here.
Mm-hmm.
We shot way too much.
Yeah, exactly.
We need to be better at being concise in our shooting or whatever.
Exactly. Or maybe you'll see a lot of green in a particular section and you'll realize, oh, wow, that was a really productive take. Maybe we need to think about shooting more like that.
Yeah, interesting.
So yeah, it can give you some insights into your shooting style as well.
Right. Yeah, just seeing the patterns that emerge visually like that.
Yeah.
So we've marked all this stuff up. Right, we've gone through our footage. We've got our red markers and our green markers and our blue markers and whatever else we've got going on.
Yeah. What do you do with it?
What do you do with it?
That's the key question, right?
How does this actually help us get to a quicker edit?
Yeah.
That's the whole point of this, right?
That's the promise. Yeah. And the way it works is you can then export all of those markers that you've created as an XML file.
Okay.
Now, XML might sound a little technical, but really all it is just a standardized way of storing information.
Okay.
And the beauty of this is that it can be read by other software.
Okay.
And specifically in this case, it can be read by professional editing software like Adobe Premiere Pro.
So instead of, importing all this raw footage into Premiere and then having to go through it all again.
Right.
And skip through the timeline and try to remember where those moments were that you wanted.
Exactly. You've already done that work.
You've already done it. Yeah.
You've created this map, this index of all the important moments.
Yeah, it's like a roadmap for your footage.
Exactly. And Premiere can read that roadmap.
Okay.
So you import that XML file into Premiere, and all of those markers, all those in points and out points, they're already there on your timeline.
It's really cool.
It's like magic.
Yeah, and it seems like that could save a ton of time, especially if you're somebody who shoots a lot of footage.
Oh, yeah.
Like if you're a vlogger or you're a documentary filmmaker or something like that.
Or even if you're just, shooting a family event and you want to put together a little highlight reel.
Right.
You've got hours of footage and you don't want to spend all your time just trying to find the good stuff.
Yeah.
So this allows you to do that first pass much more efficiently.
And I would imagine this would be especially helpful for folks who maybe are a little bit intimidated by the bigger, more complex editing programs.
Yeah, for sure.
Like when you first open up Premiere or Final Cut, it's
Yeah.
like, whoa, there's a lot going on here.
Yeah. It's like, where do I even start?
Right.
So this allows you to do that initial work in a much simpler environment.
Yeah. So who exactly is this tool for then? Is it just for beginners, or, is this something that seasoned editors might also find useful?
Well, the documentation says that it's designed for both, actually.
Yep.
It's for beginners who are, just getting started and maybe don't want to be overwhelmed by the complexity of a full-fledged editing program.
Right.
But it's also for experienced editors who are just looking for a more efficient way to do that first pass.
Okay, so even if you're comfortable with Premiere or Final Cut,
Right.
you might still find this to be a helpful tool,
Exactly.
just in terms of saving time.
Yeah, time is money. And as an editor, the more time you can spend actually editing and being creative.
Right.
The
less time you have to spend scrubbing through timelines.
Exactly.
So we've talked about the time-saving aspect.
Yeah.
But are there any other advantages to using MarkerFlow as this sort of pre-edit tool?
Well, I think one of the big ones is that it can help you maintain your creative flow.
Okay.
When you're in the middle of editing and you have to stop and scrub through footage to find a specific moment, it can really disrupt your train of thought.
Right.
So by having all of that pre-selected, you can just stay focused on the creative side of things.
Yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't really thought about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you're constantly having to stop and like, oh, where's that clip? Where's that clip?
Yeah.
It's hard to maintain momentum.
Exactly. It's like, you're building a house, and every time you need a new brick, you have to go dig it up from the backyard.
Yeah.
It's much better to have all your bricks laid out in front of you, ready to go.
Right. Yeah. So you can just kind of get into that flow state.
Exactly.
And focus on what you're doing.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about the technical side of things.
Okay.
What makes MarkerFlow tick, without getting too in the weeds here?
Yeah. No binary code.
Exactly.
So the user interface, the part that you actually interact with when you're using the software is built using Bootstrap.
Okay.
Which is a popular front-end framework. It's basically a set of tools that helps developers create clean and responsive websites and web applications.
Okay.
So they've used Bootstrap for the basic layout, and then they've added custom CSS on top of that to give it a unique look and feel.
Okay, so it's not like you're going to open this thing up and it's going to look like it was made in 1995.
Right, it's not going to be all like pixelated and clunky.
Yeah.
It's designed to be modern and user-friendly.
And how about the functionality? Like the actual playing of the videos and the marking and all that stuff. What's handling that?
So that's all handled by JavaScript.
Okay.
Which is a programming language that's commonly used for web development.
Okay.
So JavaScript takes care of things like controlling the video playback, so your pause, fast forward, rewind, all that stuff.
Right.
But it also handles the marking system itself.
Okay.
So when you hit a hotkey or click a button to add a marker, it's JavaScript that's doing the work behind the scenes.
Okay.
And it also handles the export process, when you create that XML file.
Right.
That's all JavaScript.
Okay. And
Yeah.
and is this a resource-intensive application? Like, do I need to have a supercomputer to run this thing, or can I do it on my regular laptop?
No, you definitely don't need a supercomputer.
Okay.
The documentation actually specifically says that it works on any laptop or device that can play videos.
Okay.
So it's very lightweight. It's not going to bog down your system.
So it's accessible to pretty much anyone
Yeah, exactly.
who has a computer that can play videos.
Yep,
Which is pretty much everyone these days.
pretty much.
Okay, so let's dive into some of those common questions that people might have.
Sure.
If they're considering using MarkerFlow.
Okay.
And I think one of the first ones that always comes up is compatibility.
Right.
What operating systems does this thing run on?
So according to the FAQ, it is initially developed for Windows.
Okay, so if you're on Windows, you're good to go.
You're good to go.
What about Mac?
So Mac is not supported yet.
Okay.
But they do say that they are considering it for future development.
Okay.
And they're also working on support for Android tablets.
Okay.
Which could be really cool because then you could, review footage on the go.
Right. Yeah, that would be a pretty useful feature, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially for people who are out in the field shooting,
Exactly.
Okay, so Windows is the main one for now.
Yeah,
Android tablets are coming soon. And Mac and Linux are possibilities for the future.
that's right.
Okay.
So
Stay tuned.
another question that I think a lot of people are going to have is about cost.
Right.
How much does this thing cost? Is it a one-time purchase? Is it a subscription? What's the deal?
So they do say in the FAQ that it will be a subscription model.
Okay.
And their reasoning for that is to prevent unauthorized use and to ensure that they have the resources to provide ongoing support and updates. Okay, so basically they're saying, we need to charge a subscription so that we can keep the lights on
Right.
and keep developing the software and making it better.
Yeah, and provide support to users.
Right.
So, it's not just a cash grab. It's about making sure that the software is sustainable in the long term.
Okay. And they do mention that there is a pricing page on the website,
Yeah.
but the specifics aren't listed in the documentation.
Right.
Okay, so you'll have to go to the website to find out exactly how much it costs.
Yep.
Okay, now what about if you've started marking up a video and then you have to step away from it for a while?
Yeah.
Can you save your work and come back to it later?
Yes, you definitely can.
Okay.
So MarkerFlow allows you to load existing XML files
Okay.
that you've created previously. So if you need to take a break or if you want to come back to a project later and refine your selections, you don't have to start from scratch.
Okay, that's good, because otherwise you're basically just defeating the whole purpose of this. Right, like if you had to start over every time you opened up a project.
Yeah, you'd be losing all that time that you saved in the first place.
Exactly.
So yeah, they've definitely thought of that.
Okay. And is MarkerFlow particularly well suited for any particular types of video projects?
Well, the FAQ actually specifically mentions montage videos.
Okay.
And they say that MarkerFlow is a really good tool for creating montages.
Okay. And why is that?
Well, because montages are all about, quickly cutting between different shots
Right.
and finding the most visually interesting moments.
Right.
And MarkerFlow's system of, quickly adding and removing markers makes it really easy to do that.
Okay, so if you're somebody who makes a lot of like highlight reels or music videos or anything like that.
Yeah, or even just like a family vacation video.
Right.
Where you're just trying to capture the best moments.
This could be a helpful tool for that.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's give people a quick rundown of how you actually use MarkerFlow.
Okay.
What are the basic steps involved?
So the first step is to launch the application and load your video.
Okay, pretty straightforward.
Yep, you just hit the Open File button and select your video.
Okay.
Step 2 is where you actually start marking the video.
Okay.
So you hit play, you watch the video, and as you're watching, you use hotkeys or on-screen buttons to add markers.
Okay, and those are those color-coded markers that we were talking about.
Exactly.
Okay, cool.
So red for cuts, green for good takes, and so on.
All right, and then what's step 3?
Step 3 is to organize your markers.
Okay.
So as you're adding markers, they appear along a timeline at the bottom of the screen, and you can click on any marker to jump to that point in the video.
Okay.
And you can also remove or reposition markers if you need to.
So you can kind of fine-tune things.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Once you're happy with your markers, then you move on to step 4.
Okay, what's that?
Which is to export the XML file.
Okay.
So you just click a button, and MarkerFlow generates an XML file that contains all of your markers.
Okay, and then you would import that XML file into your editing software.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then the final step 5 is to save your work.
Okay, make sure you don't lose everything.
Right. And the documentation also encourages you to share any feedback you have with the MarkerFlow team.
Okay, so they're open to hearing what people have to say.
Yeah. They want to make the software as good as it can be.
Okay.
So yeah, that's basically the workflow in a nutshell.
Okay, so it seems like MarkerFlow is really all about streamlining that initial process of reviewing footage and getting it organized before you actually dive into the main edit.
Exactly.
And that could save a lot of time and energy for a lot of different types of video creators.
Yeah, definitely.
So it'll be interesting to see, if this kind of approach catches on, and if we start to see more tools like this that are focused on specific parts of the video editing workflow.
Yeah, maybe we'll see a tool that's specifically designed for color grading or for audio mixing or for, any other aspect of the process.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of like that old saying, jack of all trades, master of none.
Exactly.
Maybe it's better to have a tool that does one thing really well.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the trend that we're seeing in software development in general. It's moving away from these monolithic applications that try to do everything.
Right.
And towards these smaller, more specialized tools that work together.
Yeah, and that could be really beneficial for users because, you don't have to pay for features that you're never going to use.
Right.
And you can kind of pick and choose the tools that are right for your specific needs.
Exactly.
And can also make video editing more accessible to people who maybe don't have the budget for these big, expensive software suites.
Yeah, for sure. If you can get a tool that does exactly what you need it to do for a reasonable price,
right,
then that's a win for everyone.
Yeah, so it's an interesting development, and I'm curious to see where it goes.
Yeah, me too.
So if you're interested in learning more about MarkerFlow, you can go to their website, which is www.markerflow.com.
Yep.
And they also have an email address, which is markerflow.app@gmail.com.
Right.
So you can reach out to them if you have any questions or you need support.
Okay.
All right, so that is MarkerFlow, a tool that could potentially make your video editing life a whole lot easier.
Yeah, a whole lot easier.
All right, thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
My pleasure.
And we'll see you next time.
See you later.
MarkerFlow. Watch, mark, edit, simplified.